My clients would fire me if I did a 10% return. My clients would fire me if I did a 50% return. My clients typically stick with me if I can do in a month about a 300% return, which is a 3-to-1 return on their ad spend.
Yeah. Hey, it's Alfred Nixon.
And I'm Ray Alessio.
And welcome to Profits and Profits. Today we got a very exciting and interesting guest, someone who I got a tremendous amount of respect for. He's a marketing assassin. He's built multi-8-figure empires by doing the opposite of whatever other marketer does. He's a snapper with content, lethal with strategy. And clients, he got clients hitting well over $1 million a month like clockwork. He's the founder of Jeremy's Inner Circle. He's a mentor to the elite and the mind behind AI Jeremy, a digital clone trained to scale businesses faster than most humans can think. When it comes to funnel, he evaluates them, he destructs them, and rebuilds them to print money. He's hands down one of the best marketers in the world today. Jeremy Haynes, welcome to the podcast.
Hell yeah. Thanks for having me, fellas. Appreciate being here.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it.
This is an exciting one for me. I'm excited to dive into some things. I've seen your growth. Like I was saying earlier, Ray, I met Jeremy in 2016. I was just getting started with what we're currently doing now. And just to see how you've grown, man, to where you're at now 10 years later, super impressive, man. Congrats.
Thanks for doing business with us with year 2 Jeremy, you know?
Absolutely.
No, and the funny thing is how I actually got connected with him was through a couple different high-ticket companies that I was working with a couple years ago. One of them, I ended up being among one of the top closers in the first one. And I was only there for a month. I ended up moving on to another one. And then when I moved on to the other one, I said, look, I know who the marketer is for, XYZ company. The guy's a monster. I want to get him over here because they brought me on to help with all the marketing and all the sales process over there as well. So I said, listen, I got the perfect marketing guy. I want to bring him on. Let's do it. So I reached out. I said, Jeremy, pass by. Let's talk. So we ended up talking, and that's how we got connected, because the guy is good. The guy is good, no doubt about it.
What would you say, Jeremy, total revenue that you've done in ads with clients, their ad budget, what would you say that number would look like?
Dude, I don't even know what to guess. I always joke around. I'm like, I'm not one of those guys that try to make up a number because, to be fair, there's obviously a lot of it that's tracked, but there's a tremendous amount that
Correct.
I just have, I don't know, either had in one software or the other over the years and
Sure.
never just congregated them together. But yeah, a whole lot, I'll tell you that.
So Jeremy, I want to ask you a question. It's funny because I watched an ad. It was someone talking about you on this ad, right?
Okay.
And he was basically saying that a lot of marketers chase virality. They're always going after that next viral content. But your angle is an anti-viral marketing approach, deliberately creating advanced technical content that filters out 99% of viewers. So only the most qualified 1% remain. That's what the ad was saying about you. That's only, the qualified 1% remain. Why do you believe going antiviral yields better results for acquiring elite clients? Did a particular moment or result convince you that more views does not equal more sales?
Yeah.
That's a great question.
I mean, it's a pretty simple answer. So the way that my specific personal brand works, I only sell to rich people who are trying to get richer. So long story short, that obviously immediately makes the larger swath of people out there
They
that
don't
are in that
qualify,
position, they're just not qualified for us. We do that for many reasons. I mean, number one, I just personally have a bias towards it. I think it's a lot funner to help rich people get richer. I also want to disclose, I don't virtue signal at all. I'm extremely transparent. Rich people pay a tremendous amount more
They got the capital,
comparatively to the general public. So me helping a rich person get far richer is, and I want to stress this a lot too, because again, outside of money, this makes a big difference for me. I like to do what I do to try to make a tremendous impact. I believe in this concept called the ripple effect. So if I help somebody, like I'll give you a great example. We have a client, he helps people overcome alcohol, charges about 15 to about 25K to do it. Got a proven system, has a study from a university where over 90+% of people rid themselves of the alcohol problem. And I can't stress this enough. There was a guy who came through as a perfect example when we were looking through the applications seeing who bought. Guy was a surgeon out in Houston. As an example, if you had a surgeon that you knew had an alcohol problem, right? You ever seen like a movie like that? I feel like that's a movie script.
That could be
where somebody like f***s up a surgery or something.
They're making great money.
Because it's like the pilot movie where, what's his name? Denzel Washington.
You know how long they got to go to school?
You remember that one?
Doctors, man, they be locked. They need some type of vice. Something
Yeah,
like
I mean, listen.
They all have. Yeah, I think they all do.
locked in.
But this guy's testimonial was insane. So like he helps people with a pretty critical type of surgery.
Sure.
So moral of the story is this guy in particular, like he discreetly went through this program, overcame the alcohol problem. Think about how many more people that guy can go out there and help with surgeries for an extended duration of time, because he's not going to have a tremor. He's not going to show up with a brain fog. He's going to show up much more present and capable. And he's going to be able to essentially extend his ability to help people of the world. That's an example of, when we help somebody who's already rich get a lot richer, but in that case, we also do it with an impact behind it. And we sell stuff all the time too that's just like, teaching somebody how to make more money. We sell like hyperbaric chambers through some of the people that we help. All kinds of random high ticket products and services. But anyway, long story short, just simply from that, think about it like this. Although, yeah, it's a smaller demographic, I'm not out here like intentionally thinking to myself like, oh, I'm gonna make this video to go viral. All I do is I sit down, I think about the specific problems that my demographic is facing, which again, is just rich people trying to get richer. And I reflect on the things that our clients are going through. I reflect on the things our inner circle members are going through. And long story short, we make videos to try to help that specific demographic out because we're just trying to build that little tribe up. You know what I mean? So I don't think there ever is a probability I go viral unless it's for something silly, unless something like in particular gets clipped. I definitely have some random things I'm sure that can go far and wide, but no, I mean, yeah, long story short, that guy in particular that you're talking about, he's making a video about my YouTube channel and how I operate. So we just don't make videos for anybody other than our specific tribe. You know what I mean?
Okay, so I have a follow-up question to that.
Yeah, go ahead.
So that same ad that I watched also said that your one of your most profitable YouTube videos has under 10K views, yet nearly every viewer is a super qualified prospect who needs your services. The ad basically said, what's the point of going?
How does that guy know that?
I have no idea, but
like you tell
is
me,
that accurate?
No, let me be clear.
Is it accurate?
Well, I want to be really direct when I say this. So people do this all the time where they use somebody who's got a hot stock and they put their face on a thumbnail, or like they do what that guy did there and make a little video as an example. And again, nothing wrong with that as long as it's not misinformation. That video in particular, I can't stress it enough. Like I'm gonna ask the same question: how the f- would a random guy know? I don't even know who that guy is.
How would he get that type of information?
No, but hear me out. Like, am I even aware of which specific video is driven the most profit? Like, I make 2 videos a week. I go on podcasts like this randomly. It's like, do I even know in real time? So it's like, moral of the story is there's these people, I call them copy and paste personal brands, where this is really important to understand. Like us three as an example right here, right now are sitting here, just being ourselves and talking about ourselves and what we got going on in our lives. Mm-hmm. There's other people who simply they'll leverage other people to be able to get their views and distribution.
Correct.
That's fine. I totally understand the game, but you can't put misinformation in it. You just can't, because at that point it becomes more problematic. Because that video, I think, went pretty far and wide. I got sent that video a tremendous amount of times. And interestingly enough, speaking of like copy and paste personal brands, there's been like 7 people that have copied that guy's video talking about the same exact thing, but they didn't even make the video. They'll just add themselves into it and act like they're the ones narrating.
Correct.
I mean, dude, it's pretty funny how that works. I don't know. I've never done that kind of shit, but anyway, moral of the story, I have no idea what fucking video the guy's even talking about in that example.
That's
so
funny.
Yeah, I don't know.
So he's probably not even accurate.
Here's the thing. Let me tell you this, just on this note, right? Like long form content is fully back. So all the videos have some type of influence, because here's the thing. We'll get a room full of people who bought from us, and we'll say, hey, first of all, if you bought because YouTube had an influence in your buying cycle, stand up. And like 95% of the room will stand up. Okay? We'll then tell them. We'll say, all right, sit down if you only watched one video and it made you buy. And you see like maybe literally a handful. You're talking about a room of 80 people here. Okay? I then get to the point where I'm like, all right, if it took 3 or 4 videos, about that point, boom, half the room sits down. You then get to the point where you get about, let's call it 20% of the people that were standing left. And I just start calling them out. I'm like, how many did it take for you? How many take? Dude, some of these guys are saying like, oh, it took 6 videos, 10 videos. Oh, I watched literally all of them before I converted. So yeah, you can see a handful of people convert from like a particular video. But what we've seen time and time again, whether it's just short form, whether it's long form, whether it's a combination of both, we'll take content like that and we'll pay to distribute it. And we'll literally put dollars behind the distribution. A podcast like this, I had one that was an hour and 55 minutes long.
Damn.
Posted it directly to Facebook. You can post up to 60-minute videos on Instagram, by the way. Do the same thing there. I posted on Facebook. It costs less than $1.20 per person who watches 100% of it to become retargetable. Like, how many dollars would you put into the machine knowing that somebody watched a full hour and 55 minutes of a podcast that has framing in it, your story in it, different points where you might even pitch throughout it?
For sure.
My point being is, like, again, I don't think it really ever comes down to a single video. Single videos can help, but a lot of the times it's a combination of a handful of videos that do the trick. So in response to that specific video on that question, no, I don't think that it makes much sense to try to make a point that it's like one video in particular that does it all. It's just not really how it works. It's generally a combination of a bunch of videos that get a person to convert.
You've worked with, and we was talking about this prior before we even went live on the podcast. You work with the likes of Ty Lopez, someone who's done extremely well online.
Yeah, Ty's sweet.
How did you even get, because when we first met, you was contributing with some of the major publications. How did you go from there to getting to where you at now and one of the best people in the world when it comes to running ads for some of the biggest brands?
Dude, great question. I call it pimping a deal. So you have to be able to take a great deal with a great result that you generate and turn it into more deals. So simply put, the better you do on a specific deal, the more deals it can turn into.
Correct.
And we're very good at being vocal about the different deals that we do with respect to the people that we work with. Like, we generally don't get on podcasts and like just blast their numbers out there or anything like that. But, you know, we talk about the fact that we work with them, one-on-one conversations. We talk about the things we actually do. You know, we make sure to make it known, and things like that spread. We don't try, like I said, I don't like make YouTube videos like my clients' thumbnails on them or anything like that. But I can't stress it enough. When you become an A player and you really start, in this case, getting rich people a hell of a lot richer, there's arguably very few people that do that successfully and have the self-awareness about what their responsibility is. I consider myself, I call this like a modern day money manager type responsibility. If you look at what people give money to hedge funds for, they'll take huge sums of money. Like, let's use the example, it's $100 million that you want to toss to Goldman Sachs or a hedge fund or private equity firm of your choice. Your goal is to turn your money into more money at a pretty aggressive rate. If you put your money straight into the S&P as an example, average annualized return for the most recent 20 years, about 10%. So you get a 10% annualized return. You put $100 million in, you get $10 million out. You get, let's say, 50% from some PE firm that's taken a lot bigger and more aggressive bets, or even just a hedge fund or money manager. Again, the whole goal is to be able to turn the lump sum of money into more money. But they'll judge it on an annualized basis in most instances, okay? In my world, people will give me a test budget between like $50 and maybe upwards of $200,000, give or take the individual and where they're at financially. And these people, they're doing the same thing. It's sophisticated gambling, but it's done through businesses and paid ads in this case. So long story short, we fully understand our responsibility. It's to turn money into more money within a 30-day window before that credit card billing cycle becomes due. And it's maximizing the overall profit. My clients would fire me if I did a 10% return. My clients would fire me if I did a 50% return. My clients typically stick with me if I can do in a month about a 300% return, which is a 3-to-1 return on their ad spend. So moral of the story, we typically do far better than that because we work with people who sell high-ticket products and services. Long story short, can't stress it enough. When you have that self-awareness, when you're actually good at it and skilled, and you have a track record, just a rap sheet of deals that you've actually done where you can reach out to, because you know how it works. The big dogs, they'll hit up the other big dogs that you've worked with, and they'll just straight up ask them, hey, how did it go?
How did it work?
And that's where the actual rubber to the road matters. You know, like, that's where the deal gets done. So thankfully, we consistently do great deals. We do them with great people all the time. We've done them with tremendously big people who have trusted us with very large sums of money, respectable sums of money. And again, we've done our job successfully of turning that into more money.
But how did you learn how to run ads? Like, what did you learn
back
that
in
from?
The day, I worked with a sales trainer, very big guy. Well, actually, let's start a little bit back. So I was selling phones in Costco when I was 18 years old. Okay. And I sold a phone to a guy. His name was Peter. Peter hired me to be his head of marketing. He said, you're a young guy. You know what you're doing with technology, and you'll figure it out. You know, and long story short, my title
head of marketing at 18.
My title was head of marketing.
That man changed your life with that opportunity.
Yeah, it did. That was my first office job, and yeah, it was crazy. So long story short, just fast forward a bit. This guy, he, like I said, gives me this opportunity. This is like a, maybe like 8-person business at first, and then he scales up the sales team, gets up like 15 people, doing everything. Just learning it in real time, SEO. And this is a period of time where there wasn't courses. Like there wasn't shit I could buy that could teach me specifically how to do this. That's because it's not like how it is today where there's like, all these social media apps where everybody has their specific skill and expertise and can demonstrate how they can teach it to you. There wasn't a lot of this type of content on YouTube. Ty's SMMA didn't even exist at this specific time, This was just me going on Google, looking it up, me talking to the companies directly. Like an example of one of the companies was Infusionsoft, which is now known as Keep. I'd call them like every fucking day just trying to figure things out in that damn software and just learning it in real time, trial and error through the I don't know, being in the field, if you want to call it that.
Absolutely.
From there, I got an opportunity to work with a guy a lot bigger, put my resume on Indeed.com, and I got recruited by the sales trainer. Long story short, that guy spent a lot more money, and he had a much larger team, and long story short, it was essentially taking the skills that I just foundationally built and amplifying them with, and it's really simple to understand. You can take the skill of digital marketing of all the different things you do under that umbrella, just put a fuckload more dollars behind it, and I compare it to like having a view in a skyscraper of the 80th floor. The more money you spend, the higher up you go with the view. The less money you spend, the lower the view. And if I tried to describe to you the view from the 80th floor, you could perceptually understand it by me describing it to you.
You got to experience. You got to get up there.
Floor,
you got it.
You're like, what the fuck is that guy talking about? Like,
yeah, you got to be up there.
You just can't comprehend it. So more of the story is, the more money you put behind ad spend in this case, and the total amount you risk, there's just a tremendous amount of lessons and perspective that you gain. Now just imagine doing that month in and month out for over a decade, and the amount of money that you perpetually spend on a month-over-month basis grows in size. It is tremendous, the level. Again, if you like stand on that experience and you likened it to a view, we're at the tip of the Burj Khalifa, But the cool part is there's always still more room to grow. You can grow into outer space with the view of how much money you can spend and how much more perspective you could get.
That's very interesting because I never did ad spend. What I did was influencer marketing.
Yeah.
So what I did was 2016 actually when I started this, I just used influencers, paid them for shout outs, generated a lot of traffic, grew a following. I had authority online, got all these DMs, text message marketing. That's what I did. But I don't think I played at the scale that I could have played at. I was spending maybe 20 grand a month.
Well, most people don't realize that they have a finite window of time to milk a specific strategy and opportunity. If you look back, because you have a pretty wide window too to look back on, think about that. All it comes down to is being self-aware in the moment that something in particular.
I didn't double down.
Money.
I was spending 15, 20, probably 25 grand a month.
Yeah.
Because I was comfortable at that $300,000 to $400,000 a month income range.
Yep, that's usually a big reason.
And I never
scaled $1 million.
And I didn't have like closers, or I didn't know if I spent more, could I handle these leads? I was kind of comfortable in that range, but I never did ads because I knew if I did a shout out, I'm getting brand authority. These people are endorsing me. They're gonna come to my page and I can close them at that level. With ads, I was like, I'm just spitting out things to a random audience. I never really went that realm. I always went social media.
But another thing is that in order to scale, he would need to also upscale his, the people that are there reaching out to.
That's what I was saying. I would have had to bring in.
If you're a one-man show, you can't really scale, but you're only one person.
That's why I was comfortable in that range, because I'm like 20 grand, 25.
Your life probably changed dramatically for the better, I'm
sure
you bought
definitely.
Some nice cars, probably got some nice houses. Probably put away a little bit of money, and that's the issue. Is like when you don't up-level your motivational drivers in real time. Each time you hit a revenue milestone and feel comfort.
I should have been spending 100 grand a month, to be honest, but I didn't have the team. I was so comfortable with 20 grand, and that was pushing me in 300-400 grand a month.
At it, the only reason you would have got a team is because either you or somebody that you could have hired should have been up your ass to tell you.
Yeah, you got to scale. You got to put more money. Yeah.
That's a big part of what we do.
I got comfortable, man. I got real comfortable, man.
Yeah, we don't tolerate that. Like that's a big part of what we do, and like why people like to appreciate the style of coaching we have. We don't tolerate those comfort zones that you can settle into. We respect them when you genuinely are like, this is it for me. And at least you're self-aware.
No, I wanted to get to $1 million a month.
See, so when you say like, hey, I got this bigger target, I genuinely want to hit $1 million a month, but you're seeing yourself settle in a behavioral pattern that obviously keeps you at
comfortable.
Someone's got to come in and just kick your ass and say, look at your behavior, put your nose in it here. audit what you're doing. Let's up-level your motivational drivers. Let's lay out a plan. We call it scaling math. Let's get this shit in motion, you know? And again, if you don't see yourself, I just gave this talk at a recent mastermind I had hosted where I had said, I did a whole talk. Sometimes I do talks on like very like tactical things and like strategy-oriented marketing lessons. Sometimes I do talks on what I call get richer talks. And this was one of those talks. I told everybody in the room, I pointed out as an example, there were 2 guys that were stuck at $700K a month. They've been there for like 6 months. We've had guys join into this group that are at like $300K a month for years.
What they were spending a month?
These particular guys at 700,
yeah,
they're probably in the 300K range in terms of total expenses and ad spend.
So they was profiting 700K, or they
were in total they were generating gross revenue about 700.
Okay, so 400K profit. Yeah,
so they're probably split.
Really good.
Yeah, important to understand. But again, it's that same range that you were settling into.
Yeah, to get comfortable because,
like I said, you can go to a restaurant, you can buy whatever the fuck you want. You can go to a store, buy whatever the fuck you want. You know, you're not thinking about bills ever. You don't even notice when your car payments come out. You're leveling up the places you live. You're getting fleets now instead of single cars.
Yeah.
Again, life changes a lot. You might even start flying private in that range. Moral of the story is, again, that's in most instances in terms of stuff, the things that most people think of when they try to aspire to these higher levels of revenue. So when they start seeing the stuff, that's typically when they settle and think to themselves, without even necessarily being aware of it, they settle into a pattern. Or sometimes they
That's probably what I did, bro, because I had all the stuff. I had the Rolls Royce, I had the G-Wagons, I had built the house from the ground up. I purchased another multi-million-dollar home here.
See?
So I'm settling, but I also see that my income wasn't scaling. But I didn't think I had the team that would support if I were to double down, triple down, quadruple. Then I didn't know. So I was just comfortable in that little holding place.
Think about this. Did you have a belief that if you did get more, it would be perceived as excess and too much?
No.
See?
No, it would.
That's good. Because again, if you would have kicked it into high gear, something.
I just did. If I would have had somebody like you, if I would have had a team, I would just put more money in and then had a team to consume that. I didn't have the team. I was just so comfortable with how I was. And Ray talked about this, really just even what they was doing with the trucking, you know, and how they kind of scaled that way, man. So again, I've never ran really Facebook ads. It's always been this influencer market.
Yeah. No, but the thing is, when we're talking ads, that's a whole nother world. You know, you got to get the right guys behind it. I get, you know, some guys want to learn it and all that. Personally, I think it's cool to learn it, but it's better to just find the right guys to work with, because that's a whole nother skill. Because it's not only running ads. Running ads is part of it, but then you get to the funnel aspect. Yeah, that's a whole nother animal in itself, and you got to have both of them down if you want to run a successful ad. Can you talk a little more about that side of the market?
And it's really a money printer, because if I get it down to how much I got to spend to get a lead, how much it's costing for me to convert a customer, if I got that thing down, I could just spend money because I know what I'm getting a lead, what I'm getting per customer, what my profit margin is. That's kind of hard for some people to find that. That's why you say that testing come in at. Once people find that realm, now you've just been able to just spend money at that point.
That's exactly right. Yeah. I mean, that's all these things are. They're money printers, and unfortunately, some of them.
That's a fun game when you mastered it like yourself.
It's really fun. Yeah. But here's the thing, right? Like, picture a like an actual money printer in your head, okay? And picture like a real tiny one that might be able to kick out like tens of thousands of dollars a month. And if you try to push it to its absolute limit, it can only print tens of thousands of dollars a month. And then you got these giant, like picture like a massive Tesla-sized warehouse in your mind. The Gigafactory is an example, but it's just a giant fucking money printer. It's just churning out dollars all day. It can kick up to a much higher level.
Yeah.
And generally, the limitation is 2 things. It's either the model itself that you pick, which can come down to the addressable market, what types of funnels you pick and choose, and how you're going to convert your customers and the level of friction.
Even profit margins as well.
Of course, and offers can determine this. But a lot of it, honestly, can also be contained by the mind. There's a tremendous amount of variables. Here's the simple answer, okay? Most of the people that come to us and that we work with, like to a degree, they figured out something to get it to at least a couple $100,000. We have guys come to us that are already at $1 million a month or at a couple million a month, and they want to punch up to the next $1 million a month. And I can't stress this enough. Sometimes it's as simple as, they need a new funnel, or they need a new audience and a new set of messaging to convert into, or sometimes they just need to know paid ads or organic ads or shout outs or, some version of a strategy. But I'll tell you what, dude, about half the time, it's some key thing that's up here that
Yeah.
prevents them from kicking it up
Yeah,
to the
you
next
can get
level. It's
comfortable
very
because
interesting
it's
to
doing
see.
well.
Yeah.
But if somebody told me every dollar I spend, I'm going to get $3 back,
Yeah.
I'm going to put more money into that. But
I talked to a guy earlier today, turning $1 into $2.50, and he was netting about $1.25 of that $2.50. Okay, so long story short, he's putting $1 in, he's putting that $1 back in his pocket,
And
he
you're
gets a
making
whole
$1.25.
$1.25
He's
to walk
doubling
away
up.
with.
He's over doubling up.
Yeah.
This guy was
Oh,
thinking
yeah.
to himself that he shouldn't scale.
it's probably fear. It's the unknown.
Well, the thing is also a comparison bias. So you start looking at certain people that have like a couple 100%, like let's say they're a 5-to-1 or a 6-to-1 ROAS. You compare that and you think to yourself, well, if I spin this up too far, that's where the fear comes. If I spin this up too far and everything goes out of whack, I'm gonna lose a lot of money pretty fast. And you have other people where, again, it's just pure comparison bias. They think to themselves, well, this guy's over here making this much. I obviously am doing something wrong. I need to change how I'm doing it first before I scale it. We, as an example of a perfect little mental thing, tremendous amount of time. It's just simple advice. You do both at the exact same time. You could fix shit and get more profitable while you're at the exact same time, in real time, scaling that specific offer and revenue range that you're at. A lot of people, believe it or not, they think in either ors, good and bads.
Right.
You know, pros and cons, truth or dare. You know, there's simply put a lot of polarity in decision making that prevents people from doing both. You got to have the right beliefs, dude.
Yeah, and for me, why are people scared to spend money? I mean, every company that I know, Coca-Cola, Taco Bell, they have a marketing or ad budget. Dude. Most people, when I first started my network marketing journey, we wasn't really spending money on ads. We would do it a traditional way, and I never made money that way. Actually, it was a slower build. When I started putting money into marketing or branding and started getting traffic, and that's when things started to grow. Why do you feel people got a fear of spending money into ads or branding themselves?
It's because they haven't gotten specific milestones out of the way to reach the point where they become a sophisticated gambler. Okay? I genuinely mean this.
I like that, sophisticated gambler.
No, think about this, okay? If you right now, if I told you, hey man, you could risk $100,000 on this and it has a probability to literally evaporate, it has a probability to make back a percentage of the 100K, like an unknown percentage, and there's also a probability that it could turn into a lot more than 100K. Could turn into $1 million, could turn into 200K. We don't know. We got to test it and we got to find out. If you had any other purpose that 100K could go towards in that example, it's usually stuff or circumstances.
Yeah, so, you're probably going to be like,
let's use the example. You were like, I could put these girls through a private school, about 40K a year, 50K a year, give or take the school around here, right?
Yeah.
And give or take what grade they're in, it dictates maybe a couple $1,000s less or maybe a couple $1,000s more.
Yeah.
If you haven't paid for the school for the year yet and you looked at that 100K, you'd say,
yeah, that can go towards that.
This would make a lot more sense. Put towards
and I know that's guaranteed.
And think about this. This is a really good reason. Well, I got my daughters. Do you want my daughters to go to the best schools that I can afford to put them through? That makes way more sense in that example to just gamble it.
Gambling 100K.
Yeah, and think about it. Advertising is gambling. It is. It's just sophisticated gambling where the probabilities are far more in your favor comparatively to walking into a casino.
I mean, when you got someone like yourself that can
increases
do that test and you find out how much it's costing per ad and how much it's costing you to convert a customer, now you can, as you mentioned, make a calculated risk.
That's exactly
I
right.
know it costs me $31 to get a customer. I know it's going to profit me this. A person will put money into that, but if you haven't tested and you don't know, they're going to be
even riskier, right?
Yeah.
And that's where a lot of people start at. It's like they have something that enabled them to make the money to have the gambling budget. But like I said, if you don't view it like, okay, I'm going to walk into the casino, I've got this specific budget set aside. If it evaporates, it is what it is. But I'm willing to gamble it to see if I can turn it into more money. Let's take a bet, all right? And again, the only thing that would technically prevent you from going beyond the gambling budget when something works is that the additional money that you could invest into it perceptually is tied up into some other thing, stuff, or circumstances.
But for me, it made sense because, okay, this is going to give me where I can scale and get in front of more people, but I got to pay taxes anyway. So I'd rather put that into my business and write it off. I can scale my growth. I can get more visibility. I can get more customers.
But a lot of people don't look at it like that way. But it is
that's
marketing
when
costs.
I first came out, for me, that's what I was like.
Marketing
I got to pay taxes.
Marketing
so I want to put
costs-
this in this and write it off.
Marketing costs is a tax write-off. It's a tax write-off. Even if you take a loss, if you run a horrible campaign, you take a loss, you can write off that loss as well.
And then when you
A
get
lot of
serious
people don't look
in
at
that
it.
game, you can leverage that Platinum American Express, put that to work, get points. There's so many different things that a lot of these guys do to really scale that.
The gold card's better for ad spend, by the way. You get 4x on the points, but there's a limit to it. And then you got to start, to your point, pimping things like Chafed Sapphire card, the preferred cards, all the other point cards. And then eventually you spend enough where you transition to what's called Facebook invoicing. Most of the other ad channels offer something similar. They let you operate on a net 30. So you can keep your nuts on the table for a full 30 days.
And then they charge you at the end?
The following 30 days.
And they charge you at the end?
That's exactly right, yeah. So they shoot you over an invoice, you got net 30 to be able to pay it off. Give or take your relationship and how well you are with them. But yeah, moral of the story, that can allow you to take bigger risks. So yeah, time and time again, can't stress it enough. Like I said, comparing it to a modern day money manager, you are essentially tasked when you're an advertiser or any kind of marketer, turning the dollars into more dollars within the credit card billing cycle. Because you're not going to want to uncomfortably risk all those dollars.
No,
and
that
then have to
definitely
wait
makes sense.
beyond that. You know? So that's what every single person that we work with optimizes for. And a lot of the people that come to us, not always, but a lot of them, they have a very strong organic presence. And so to the point of your first question, a lot of that starts to become a key player in supporting the sales process and increasing the odds dramatically that you shorten the sales cycle. Because that's an example you mentioned with your shout out strategy. The reason you likely enjoyed it a lot was that authority bias that would transfer into you.
So soon as they start me out, I'm getting 500, 1,000 followers immediately. That's going to be a potential customer base because they're going to see my marketing. They're going to get to know me better, and they'll come back down the road. And then I will sign up people immediately.
Yeah.
Because now I'm getting endorsed by somebody that they know, trust, or like.
See, and that sales cycle being so short, that's solely an indicator in that example.
I did all of that with no funnels, by the way. I wasn't capturing nobody information. It was just DMs, text messages.
But the reason that works so well is because shout outs work like a referral based type of marketing strategy.
There's a strategy behind
someone refers somebody, they have that trust. Like, I was referred by.
I seen this on the shade room, so this guy must be a big deal. And then the way how I would do it was I'll start putting stuff in my story, not only necessarily about the business, but who I am as a person. So they're like, oh, this guy's a real person.
Character development.
Yeah, and then I will also have a testimonial on my page.
But that right there, testimonials, that's how you translate that into the ad world with testimonials. Especially you get some big testimonials, you have a lot of them. I seen you did a great job with the testimonials on your website. I was going through some of them. You have a bunch of testimonials from a lot of guys at an event, socializing with everybody, and a bunch of testimonials. I'm like, this is great. This is literally how you do it when it comes to testimonials.
Building that trust and that equity. Do Facebook, when you spend a certain amount of money on Facebook, do they start targeting you to people that they know going to buy, or they start giving you different incentives? Or
it's more of a well are you talking about like the benefits that they'll give you as you spend
let's just say you start spending $1 million plus, do they start giving you different, you're going to get in front of the right audience, they can get, they give you different perks when you spend money with them?
Audience space, but there are advantages. So as an example, there's 3 levels of reps. There's the regular support reps that get assigned to you. They usually hit you up every quarter. They'll rotate every quarter. They have a couple hundred people generally that they work with at a time. Then there's when you start spending $1 million a month for 6 months in a row, they call them an industry ad expert. Now, an industry ad expert, that's and again, the milestone for that's $1 million a month in ad spend.
Got to do it 6 months in a row.
6 months in a row, correct. Now, once you get that level of rep, they typically work with about a dozen people, sometimes less, sometimes a little more. And they are like an actual rep. They're really good. They can, as an example of a handful of things they could do, disable the ad account from seeing any disapprovals. The ad, if disapproved, will just get shut off and paused rather than an actual disapproval, because disapprovals can harm the account's health, and they have an incentive to help grow the amount of spend that you can get out. That's why Facebook assigns them to you in that example. Same thing with all the other ad channels as well. At certain levels of spend, they assign you somebody that their intention and goal of assigning this person to you is to help you spend more money with them, of course. So again, they are extremely helpful. They help you with any kind of bans, any kind of problems. Here's the cool part too. We went to Menlo Park, which is their main headquarters out there in San Francisco Bay Area. We took a little helicopter down from Oakland to, I think it was the Silicon Valley Airport is what it's called. And then Facebook has this large, they call it a campus. The guy who designed Disney designed their campus, and they have this, it's like little town hall area that has an enormous screen. It's like a giant walking path. They have bikes everywhere. They have like free food, arcades, and things like that. And long story short, they also have headquarters all over the world. Our specific industry ad expert at the time of this specific experience was in Chicago. They fly out your industry ad expert to whichever headquarters you want to go to. So we had him fly out to the main one so we could see it, set up a nice little classic like just office room that you booked out. And he did this presentation for us. And there's still today so many different lessons that I refer to just from that one meeting alone that guy gave us. So they don't necessarily give you like, hey, we're gonna, target XYZ people for you. They don't do things like that, but they teach you really high level lessons. It's actually like great lessons that they teach. 2, they do give you what they call alpha feature testing and beta feature testing. So certain things that eventually roll out to all advertisers, you'll get the opportunity as a higher spender to test optionally. And that's the best part. Certain things that get rolled out into your account, I'm sure every advertiser sitting here watching this knows, it just piss you the fuck off. You're like, oh, this is terrible. Like, I can't believe they did this. If that ever happened with an account assigned to an industry ad expert, you could just call the guy and say, hey man, undo that shit. And they would do it. There's also a just much bigger support network. And then for the true big dogs, like the big corporate, like Fortune 500 people, they have what they call a global partner. And the global partner, that person is like for Amex, Pepsi.
What you got to spend a month to become something like that?
The guy never told me about the global partner. I don't even necessarily
So what
know
comes
if
with
it's
that?
just money.
What comes with that? You haven't
Man,
got there
I
yet.
mean, Fortune 500 company. I mean, you're probably one of those
Yeah, I
big.
mean, we won't even have any interest necessarily working at that level because it's a totally different type of deal. Like the people we work with specifically in the games that we play, again, these are usually like somewhere in the range of a couple $100,000 a month. Some of them come to us. I'd say honestly about this point, about 1/3 of the other people come to us. They're already at a couple mil a month or $1 million a month. And again, they're just looking to punch up. They're either looking to hit the first $1 million a month or they're looking to hit the next $1 million a month. And they usually need some help, not just with paid ads, but marketing and scaling principles and like somebody who's going to help hold them accountable to grow tremendously. So anyway, moral of the story, I don't even have any fucking interest to get a global partner. I think that'd be a pain in the
So
ass.
in your case, what I notice is you're not only a marketer, you're literally pushing them and motivating them to go to the next level on top of it.
I usually say as an example, as an agency owner, about half my job is getting the results. The other half is managing client narrative. So client narrative means the stories that a business tells themselves about what's going on wildly dictates what they do, right? And so moral of the story is, if I told you guys right now as an example, and you genuinely believe this, hey man, there's about to be a nuke that hits us in about an hour from now, and you you genuinely believe that was going to occur, all your behavior is going to dramatically shift.
Yeah, for sure. Get the hell up out of here, man.
Okay? And think about it like this, right? Most businesses at any given moment, it's the equivalent to some version of a nuke's about to drop on some specific area of their business. And so they don't necessarily have, they deeply believe in most instances that they're in control and that they're proactive people and that they're not reactive and they're not like just like chickens with their head cut off, because usually they're making a lot of money. And when somebody comes in and just tells them like, look, dude, like you got to stay on track. This specifically what needs attention right now. And when they put attention on it, it actually plays out to make them more money. That relationship starts to become a very high trust relationship extremely quickly, where you find out me running ads, me pushing traffic through, that's not the sole function of what we do. We have to take responsibility for the best practices of the sales team and sales management. We have to make sure. I've seen so many times over the business owner themselves can run a multi-million-dollar a month business straight into the ground because of a belief that plant medicine told them, or an election coming around and them getting like supercharged about who's going to win and then saying like, oh no, this guy didn't win, that guy win. I'm like, dude, I've seen the craziest shit. And simply put, it comes down to the stories that the business tells themselves. So long story short, I like to say this because I'm paid on rev share in almost every like agency deal that we do. And obviously my job in my education company is to turn their money that they spend with us into more money consistently. We have to understand they get in the way a lot of that happening, or a specific division gets in the way of that happening. So my responsibilities are anything that prevents that revenue from coming in, I'm going to get involved with it. And because of having this rev share operation now for a little over 8 years, we've had so many lessons that have been non-marketing lessons that have made the revenue real, and in other instances held back a tremendous amount of money. So yeah, to your point, dude, I mean, damn near anything you can name in a business that could hold something back, we've had to get involved with, or we've had to throw people at, or we've had to give proper referrals for. But yeah, we were very well rounded in that regard. By no means are we just like paid ads or like just marketers.
Yeah, that's cool.
That hold back a lot of money.
It's more than just marketing, and so I like that.
Yeah, of course.
Now, let me ask you this. I wanted to know more or less, because I like dissecting funnels here and there.
Yeah, sure.
I don't really get into it as that much because I don't run ads or anything, so there's really no need for it.
Yeah.
But I actually enjoy putting together funnels. I almost dropped my phone. Sorry. I actually enjoy putting together, funnels and just going over them. So can you talk a little bit about that, the ranking of the funnels, the deconstructing of the funnels, and then just putting them back together to grow them? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so essentially what you're referring to is what we call conversion rate optimization. There's obviously just a tremendous amount of strategies when it comes to funnels and what specifically you can pick. I'll give you a great piece of advice just to start. Long story short, whatever your sales team biases towards is typically what type of funnel you should bias towards. So as an example, if you have a sales team that prefers only talking to people who schedule calls and have done things like watch a VSL before the call, that'd be a great example of an opportunity to run a webinar funnel, or an opportunity to run a challenge model as an example, or an opportunity to implement all of our back-end selling systems that we teach people for things like call funnels to get them to work better. Simply put, in that example, your salespeople are essentially telling you out loud, I want people to consume a bunch of information prior to talking with me. That means they need layup deals. They need very well-framed deals. That would mean it'd be awful to run like a lead form strategy where they have to reach out to people who have lower intent because they went through less friction. That would mean, as an example, it'd be devastating if they did a call funnel and they had no information to consume between the time the call is booked and the time the call occurs. There's just going to be a very high failure rate with that. In comparison, we have certain deals that we do where their salespeople are just dogs, dude, like they're killers. And they don't give a shit if anybody watched a video. They just need somebody who raised their hand and just said like, hey, I'm interested in that. So long story short, in that example, like we're not going to run a higher friction strategy that's going to put less people through with more dollars spent. We're going to run a strategy with the same dollars spent is just going to be a much cheaper cost per technically qualified lead that raised their hand, said I'm interested, and just feed them to that specific sales team. So moral of the story, the type of funnel that you pick and choose to run, like imagine Alfred's team back in the day when he was running shoutouts, didn't have a set of DM setters. Imagine he wasn't willing to jump in the DMs and talk to people. That strategy would have had a really high failure rate for him.
Yeah.
But to be fair, it's like it worked really well, not just because he got the leads in, but because of the sales team.
Yeah.
So most people, what they do is like they hear a great marketing strategy and they think to themselves, oh, that makes a lot of sense to run. But they don't know when it's appropriate to do what because they don't consider how they're going to actually convert the person. Is it direct to checkout? That determines what you're going to be able to charge in a webinar, as an example. If you're driving people to a call, again, that wildly dictates, more so than anything else, what strategies are most appropriate for you to do and execute on. And then from there, we generally, after we get something in motion, we call it a bottleneck analysis. We try to determine, step by step where specifically a contraction is within the advertising and sales process, which generally includes things like CPMs, link click-through rate, opt-in rates, application rates, booking rates, show rates, close rates, AOVs, things like that, and all kinds of other little stats, give or take the funnel. And moral of the story, when we look at those specific steps in the process, generally when you're trying to open up more revenue coming through, you have to open up something that's contracted. And that determines where you need to put attention. Most people, they will have a very diffused, like random focus. We let bottleneck analysis determine for us which specific step of the process deserves our attention to attack aggressively with a very like hyper-focused level of attention. At that point, once we open that statistic up, or in some instances reduce it, give or take the stat and what's appropriate, we'll see a fuckload more money come through as a result. So anyway, moral of the story, hey man, if a page needs attention because it's where the bottleneck is, we'll attack it. If the ads specifically are bringing in the wrong people, we'll attack the ads and we'll change the messaging, we'll change the targeting. We might change the messaging on the funnel. If everything's working great, like I'll give you a great example. We have a client right now, we just launched him. He's in his first month with us. He teaches people how to launch a sober living home business. Listen to this, single family real estate property, generating him about $5,000 to $7,500 a month in net revenue per property, okay? Because he turns them into these things called sober living homes. Moral of the story is when we launched that specific info offer, we did it through a call funnel because that's what his salespeople were already working well with, okay? They just had a slightly higher cost per call that I believed I could get lower. And I also believed through some targeting and messaging changes, I could bring in a higher quality person that's also more probable to close with some of the back-end selling systems we have. So long story short, really simple to understand. I brought this guy's cost per call down into about a $50 cost per qualified call range. He was in about the high 100s prior to that.
Wow.
So that's a good reduction right there. We then get immediately great feedback from his sales team. Hey, these leads are really qualified. They're really good. We love who's coming through. Great indication to see immediately. And then days later, they start closing deals. They start getting some payment plan deals. They start getting some pay-in-fulls. And then from there, we just kind of wait. There's things that we could touch, but we don't, because they're starting the process of accumulation. Within about a 3-week period, he's a little over a 3.25 ROAS right now while we sit here, updated as of earlier this morning. Now, in that example, let me be clear. He has about a 60% show rate. The link click-through rate on the ads is about 2.35%. That's very good. His CPMs are in like the $30 to $50 range. Again, pretty average, pretty normal right now. Everything's going pretty well. The application rate, the application to scheduled call rate, close rate, AOV, everything's great. There are things absolutely I could optimize and test. But you tell me, does it make any sense to touch anything in that example? Or does it make sense?
Not right now,
just to
because
start the
things are
scaling
going good, and you want to start seeing closing on the back end, and then you can start scaling.
So moral of the story is you got to have a revenue range in terms of your ROAS that you get to, where you say, look, if it's above this, and usually for us that's about a 3 to 1. We'll do a lot more than that on a lot of deals that we execute on, to be clear, and a lot of people that we teach. Like I just talked to this guy earlier this week. His name's Ben. He's out in Australia. Ben spent about $85,000 on a webinar, and he made $800,000. He's in our Inner Circle program. This guy kills it, okay? In that example, that's a great ROAS, right? Far greater than a 3 to 1. But let me be clear when I say this. It's like that doesn't negate the fact that the guy who's at a 3 to 1 ROAS should start scaling. He needs to start scaling, just like the guy who's at a 10 to 1 ROAS needs to start scaling. You understand? So moral of the story is we define a ROAS range where we start punching the gas.
What does that mean, ROAS?
ROAS, return on ad spend.
Return
All
on
we're
ad
trying to
spend.
do is put $1 in, see how many dollars we get back, and that's our return on ad spend in that example. There's another great statistic you can track. One of my buddies, his name's Josh Troy. He runs a company called Wires from Strangers. He's the best sales manager I've ever met, operates at a very high level. Josh has a specific statistic that in some instances makes it easier to track. He calls it collected dollars per booked call. And simply put, it's a statistic where you can also easily see your return on ad dollars, but just in a different way of looking at it. He got a great YouTube channel where I'm sure he talks about it, to be clear, but I won't take his stat or sit here and talk about it. But moral of the story is we use that statistic as well as another great benchmark of seeing, okay, it costs this much to put a call on the calendar, and we see that we collect this many dollars on average per call.
That's a great model to scale.
Exactly.
When you
Let's
know
also
those
look at
numbers.
that. Let's determine
But let me
how much
ask you
more we
this:
can spend.
which of these strategies is outbound? Is it inbound? You know, booked appointments, booked calls, whatever. Which of
Zooms,
these
it's a
have you
lot.
seen is the
What you
absolute
think is the best?
Yeah, again, it's all relative to the individuals, but I will say this in terms of what's most common. Call funnels are extremely common.
Meaning
think-
inbound book calls?
Correct. You'll have like a headline, a VSL, an application. You'll send traffic
A
to
calendar.
that page. Correct. They'll fill out the application and then they'll see the calendar if they're qualified. You leverage some conditional logic within the application to kick out the wrong people, let the right people through to book a call. And in addition to that, webinars, specifically live webinars, are absolutely hotcakes right now, crushing it with revenue. And for the people who can pull it off, challenge funnels. Challenge funnels or virtual events, whatever you want to call them, tremendous in terms of the effectiveness. There's
Can you give
also
me
a
an
lot
example
people-
of a challenge funnel?
Yeah. So we had a client as an example. She was teaching people how to buy businesses. She did a challenge earlier in the year in February. She has another one coming up later this year that we're starting to promote now. She did really well. She had about a 1.9x ROAS, return on ad spend, on just ticket sales. So pretty much she sold a couple thousand people into it. And then she had a couple hundred of those people buy a $10,000 product
Yeah, it's pretty
in the
good.
challenge itself. And she made a couple $1 million off that.
Wow.
So, you can risk, usually the regular way it works is you'll risk some money up front. Usually you'll lose a little money on the ticket sales to get the people to buy. And so you're burning money for about a month, sometimes upwards of 2 to 3 months, depending on how big you want it to be and how long you're willing to burn. And your goal is to get as many people as you can to show up to this virtual event. Usually you're having people pay for it because they show up at a lot higher rate when they pay. And then moral of the story, you are closing them typically on day 2, sometimes on day 3. And you're just dumping anywhere from about 4 to upwards of 8 hours of content on these people per day. Usually the challenge is like some kind of outcome that you want to help them achieve during the course of the virtual event. So you're typically saying like, let me get you in the game. And then you're showing them, typically the upsell is, how to play the full game and how to get a result faster. So that's generally how the challenge models work.
So it's
And
like a
again,
2-3
really
day
effective.
workshop.
I seen
typically.
Spectacular was doing. I don't know if you know Spectacular, but
Yeah,
he
man, love
does
Spectacular.
challenges a lot, and he was telling me about it, and he was like, man, I forgot what he showed me what he spent and what his profit margin, but
man.
it was he's probably mastered that game, man.
Yeah, man, Spectacular is OG. Love Spectacular. But yeah, moral of the story. I'm not surprised to hear that challenge funnels are awesome.
Yeah, he's crushing it.
There's a lot of people using them, and there was kind of a dark age for webinars and challenge funnels where they didn't work as well, and that was during a period of time of mainly COVID. You saw a lot of people biased towards like shorter form content. Call funnels and standard direct response absolutely killed it during that window. And to be clear, there were still plenty of people that were leveraging that model. and making it
Why
work.
during that period though? What changed?
Well, there's a great book called Pendulum. I think it helps explain the concept. People swing in behaviors, and you see this as an example. You can look at like political things like our presidency as an example. Like the whole country will swing one particular way. I'll give you a good one. The American Eagle ad with Sydney Sweeney today. You guys saw that?
Nah, what was it about?
So Sydney Sweeney, the blonde girl, she did the American Eagle company. She did some jean ads, and it's just like a classic like muscle car, and a blonde girl that people think is hot going into the car talking about the jeans and just endorsing American Eagle. They probably paid her, I don't know, tens of millions would be my bet. Dude, their stock before the market opened today went up 200 million in market value.
Wow.
So I mean that paid for itself really quick. But at the same time, 4 or 5 years ago, the American Eagle model was like a super fat chick, and it was like a diversity thing that was being endorsed.
Transgender.
I can't. Yeah, maybe. Have you ever seen the Calvin Klein ad of like
Yeah.
the crazy like big girl? Like, dude. The moral of the story is that's an example of the pendulum where it's like, yeah, I mean, technically at one point, right or wrong, that's technically what was being run as an ad by not just American Eagle, by like think about how many companies like. Dude, I mean, Victoria's Secret got rid of the Victoria's Angels during that period of time, right?
That's crazy.
Okay, but now it's like, boom, the pendulum swings back. Now you got Sydney Sweeney in American Eagle ads. You've got the Victoria's Secret Angels are back. You got Trump and the political spectrum swinging
Trump
back.
is cool now. He's cool now.
But again,
He
think
wasn't a
about
few
this.
years
It's like
ago.
that's a great example of the pendulum.
Trump is bringing a lot of money to the country, man. I just seen a deal with Japan. I just seen another deal with this, the tariffs, the economy, man. For me, what's your think about that, man? If the tariffs and the economy where it's going.
Well, I'll tell you something crazy that happened with tariffs. We had actually several of these raising capital deals, and we also had a handful of the businesses we worked with that got hit with really high ad costs because of the tariff announcements. So what we had to do is we had to update all the ads to be contextual relating to talking about tariffs. So a good example of this, Trump announces tariffs, ad costs overnight for a few specific offers. I'll give you one in particular. There's this company raising capital for an RV boat and storage facility, okay? And they want your money to build the facility out.
Correct.
They want you to be a partner. Moral of the story is, as soon as you look at that opportunity, but add tariffs to it, you start to think to yourself as a person that's deploying your capital, well, maybe this won't be as profitable because I don't know where you're getting your build material.
Yeah.
Maybe you're getting it from overseas.
Going
and
from
therefore you're
China,
gonna
if you're
have a lot
going to
more
different,
inflation. Right? And so ad cost as a result of like that type of thinking from a consumer, drove the ad cost per lead through the roof. We were able to solve for that in that example by having a client specifically say, here's where we get our build material. Here's how we do during tariffs. Here's, as an example, our literal numbers of how these different tariffs will impact us and what our bottom line will be. And then right back down, our cost per lead goes. We had that happen for a handful of random businesses that you might not even expect it to happen to. And the exact opposite happened with some e-com and like physical product stores. A lot of the high ticket product businesses specifically, they actually saw drops in their cost per purchase due to the fact that people thought their prices might go up. So like people were trying to rush to purchase. And then as a result of buying, that I can't stress it enough, like the tariffs in that example were good, not bad. So long story short, the point I'm attempting to make though, just to help you understand, the pendulum book talks about that there's like these swings. And just to put it in perspective, like, we'll swing back the other way too. All the stuff that I just said, probably 5-8 years from now, when everything swings back to the other, will make me look terrible. And then, a decade or 15 or 20 years later, it'll look totally normal again. You understand? So like in the context of the pendulum, behavior changes. When you look at, as an example, short form and long form, we're seeing through like 2019 to 2023 timeframe, short form was the largest consumption of content from the average person. Moral of the story is most people realize, I'm not actually getting a lot of value out of short form content. I actually prefer more of the long form stuff. Or it's kind of like with webinars as an example, the reason live webinars work.
What you mean by long term, like longer videos?
Long form, yeah.
Like
think about it
podcasts.
this.
What you think about that
video
guy,
right now is
like-
an example of a preference in current, like literally right now times.
What you think about that guy? It's a guy that I used to see online. I don't see him as much anymore. Named Sam Evans, or Sam Ovens, or something like that. He used to do these
Sam Ovens,
long videos and high ticket sales.
And think about that, like that was during a period of time prior to the 2020, like 2023 time frame where short term was big. And again, that's exactly what I'm saying. Long form back in like, I'd say like the 2015 to maybe all the way up to 2019 time frame was the preference. And then the pendulum swung to short form. And as a result, the types of funnels that people would be preferential to go through, they also change during those periods. So when you have a long form period of time, that's where people prefer to be. You need to adapt your funnels. You need to adapt your content. You need to adapt your pre-call, like back-end selling systems as an example, around the preference of consumers. As soon as the pendulum swings back and like people are tired of long form again, because it'll inevitably happen, short form will be king again. And I want to be fair in saying like short form gets a tremendous amount of reach well above and beyond what long form does. But when it comes to getting buyers, typically long form supports the sales process more so than short form nowadays. Short form is great for initial attention, keeping you top of mind. Long form is great for supporting the sales process and converting buyers.
So when it
Same
comes
thing
to
in funnels.
VSLs, right? A VSL, what would you consider short form versus long form?
It's just the length of the video in that example. Short form in that case could be like 2 to 5 minutes, which still has effectiveness, to be fair. That can be perceived as long form by a richer demographic. And then you could we have a client as an example right now. He's actually the Silver Living Home guy that I was just telling you about. He has an hour-long VSL on his page that's just a podcast that he threw right there.
Wow.
But again, he's getting a $55 cost per qualified call. So typically what you end up seeing, and this is really important you understand this, like modern times, most people don't understand like how behavior is. And when you study behavior, it's really simple to think of what funnels and what actions you can take on funnels that work best, or just with advertising in general. When you go to pick a new restaurant, let's say you're in a city you haven't been before, right? You're thinking about just the choice of which restaurant do I want to go. You're likely looking for very specific things. Like what would you look for?
If I'm going to where?
Just a new restaurant.
To
in a
any
random
restaurant?
city. Yeah, a totally new place you've never been
I
before.
don't know. Personally, probably pasta. I like pasta.
And so he'd look for a pasta place. What would you do if you wanted to seek out a new restaurant?
Probably for a little steakhouse, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, so you look for steakhouses. Like a lot of the people I know, they'll do things like maybe look at Yelp, go to Google, click on the little photos.
Yeah.
Some of them go
Yeah.
to TikTok
That's
and
true.
they'll look at the food on TikTok. Some of them
yeah.
will go to Instagram.
I go to
Some of
Instagram
them-
a lot.
Some of them will
I
look
do.
at their reviews, right? And they'll
Yeah.
just try to pick a place. But here's the thing: you're not really being super intentional about each place. You're in like a scanner mode.
You is in a
that
scanner
example.
mode based off how the photos look, or you see
It's
what
very-
type of
think
presence
about
how juicy that meat
Instagram
looks.
page have, or stuff like
That's
that.
right. That's right. And it's very snap-second judgments that you're making, and you're making them fast. And again, because you're in scanner mode, what you're thinking to yourself is, okay, again, I'm just trying to pick a restaurant right now. But once you pick the restaurant, right? Once you officially commit to a specific restaurant that you're going to go to, you pick that specific steakhouse. That's when all of a sudden, okay, what's it look like? Where do I park? What's on the menu? What specifically am I going to order? Do they have some random thing or condiments I'm going to help order? Or maybe a butter for the steak. You start thinking about all the extra things that you didn't give a about when you were in scanner mode.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is really important to understand. On the front end, right? Like if I have an hour-long VSL or if I have a 5-minute long VSL, the person's in scanner mode, right? The misinterpretation is that they're probable to consume the entire VSL. That's not the case. They're probable to conclude if it's for them or not, and if they're interested or not. And yes, you want to put the right information there. Yes, you want to give as much as you can, but thinking they're going to consume it all on the front end is the big mistake. The main thing you'd rather do that we see has tremendous effectiveness now, we call them back-end selling systems. On the back end of the funnel. So as soon as the person converts and says, this is what I'm going to do, this is the business that I have the most interest in, that's where we see time and time again the consumption goes through the roof. So we'll do things like put all these videos, we call them breakout videos, right onto the confirmation page that the person sees. And we'll tell stories, we'll answer specific questions, we'll go through key data. We'll typically, listen to this crazy shit. We'll send up to 6 emails a day.
To the same person?
Give or take the business. Yeah. And hear me out. We don't start with 6. Usually we'll start with like 3 and we'll see what the open rate is. But listen to this. What would you do in this example? You send somebody 3 emails, let's say they're spread out over 3 hours each. So they get an email as soon as they opt in, 3 hours later they get another, 3 hours after that they get another.
And they open, what's the open rate?
Let's say the open rates are all 60 to 70%.
That's pretty high.
Are you going to add a fourth?
Possibly, man, depending
What if you added a fourth and the fourth also had the same exact open rate? What would you add, a fifth?
Yeah.
Okay, and you added a fifth. And again, you see the consumption is still there. You see everybody wants the information that they're reading through it.
That's a good
Would
sign.
You add a sixth?
I'm going to keep at because you got to, the sale process takes.
Sounds like they want more.
Yeah.
So here's my point. It's like we typically see that as soon as somebody actually says
They're
like,
engaging like that, man.
yeah, so that's
sounds
They
like
look
they
at
want
everything I send them at a high level. So
It's very common.
It just
It's very
depends on what
common
they
that that's
want.
the case. So time and time again, we do them in 4 ways. We have content that remarkets people. We have those confirmation videos. We have these things we call them value dense email sequences. Then we typically have some best practices that the closers will do. And the closers or the setters, whoever reaches out, we'll have them tailor personalized communication for the individual. Because the marketing team, to be fair, they could use application data to create a contextual communication line with that person. But most of the time, the sales rep can look at the application data and they can look through every resource that you have and say, I bet this video would be best for you right now, Alfred. You know what I mean? Oh, I bet this video would be best for you. You understand? And as a result of that, you have to understand each one of these independently of each other, these 4 different systems, they improve show rates, they improve close rates, they condense sales cycles. They just help people buy with more confidence. Therefore, you get more PIFs too. But just to be clear on this, when you do all 4, you're just stacking the odds of the bet playing out
just
for
keep
yourself.
hitting it.
That's all it is. So moral of the story, time and time again, you could think to yourself, okay, the front end is what I exclusively need to focus on. And we do. I mean, we have all kinds of front end stuff that we do too, to be fair. But time and time again, from what we've seen right now, even if we do all the front end stuff right, they're still in scanner mode, you know? And the back end is really where all the consumption is. Does that make sense?
We'll get you out here. We'll get you out of here on this.
Yeah, please.
Man, you've helped over 40 businesses, man, do over $1 million a month.
Yeah, dude, we're at 42 now.
That's insane.
Yeah.
You know, what's next for Jeremy, man? What do you want your legacy to be labeled as?
tell you
10
what.
years from now, what you want people to know you for?
Super simple. I'm playing the game that I love to play. I've just seen an amplification of it, you know? I just want to continue helping rich people get a hell of a lot richer, get richer in the process myself. It's a fun time. I love the way that we built everything right now. So
Yeah, I crushed it, man.
Truly, I can nothing to change, you know?
Man, thank you for joining us
Of course,
today, man.
Thank you
For
for
tremendous
having me on,
value.
boys. Pleasure to be here with you guys, man. Thank you.